I was actually born in Washington, D.C., but my family moved outside of Kansas City when I was about a year old, and I was raised in Kansas. I came from a family that was very assimilated and not religious at all. As a child or whatever, I never went to a shul. I never had any interaction with a rabbi. I never had any Jewish education. I never lit Shabbat candles. I never went to a Pesach Seder. I never went to a Hanukkah lighting. I had no contact with my Judaism. I got out of high school, I worked around. I did a stint as believe it or not, as a sheep herder. How Jewish is that? You know? And I worked on farms and so on and so forth, and I joined the Navy. And I'm joining the United States Navy. And I'm filling out the forms, and I've got, there's questions like, what color are your eyes, and what color is your hair, and what's your birthday, and what's your religion. The options were, it was this one, or that one, or the next one, and Jewish, and none. And I thought to myself, none. And so as my hand, is holding the pencil, and as I go down to check mark the box for none, I just couldn't do it somehow. I just couldn't do it. And I just ended up check marking Jewish. And so I was in the Navy for 22 years, and the entire time I had dog tags that had my name, rank, and serial number and had Jewish on them. I came here to Thailand while I was in the Navy. I retired from the Navy in 1999, and we moved here to Sakanakan, Thailand. We actually live in the Wanani Wat district, which is about 80 kilometers away from the city of Sakanakan. Our village is Ban Pong Pang. We don't even live in the village, we live outside the village. There was no cell phone, no phone, no internet. To get an email was a 30-kilometer trip. Hi, my name is Zavula, and I'm a rice farmer from Sakanakan, Thailand. When we started on this place, it was all trees in here. We felled all the trees, we made a big field out of it. This is a lot of work. I'm out here in Sakanakan, Thailand. I've, built a house, and I got a barn, a rice barn, and a tractor, and a combine, and a truck, and a car, and I've got all the things that I've worked for my entire life, and so it's like all of the goals that I set out for myself in life were being met, and at the same time, I felt like I should be able to sit down and relax and have some kind of satisfaction, but it just wasn't there. And I was 51 years old, and I was wondering, what is going on? And maybe I should talk to a rabbi. This guy I knew, he was a Jew, but he was like me, kind of non-observant or what have you. And he says, oh yeah, there's a synagogue on Soi 22. And I said, what, Soi 22? Really? He says, yeah. So I go to Bangkok, and I go to Soi 22, and I inspected every single building on Soi 22, the entire Soi. And I thought, is that a synagogue? Could that be a synagogue? Could there be a synagogue in there? No. I determined there was no synagogue on Soi 22. And I was about ready to give up. And so I decided to take the 30-kilometer trip to go maybe do an internet search. So I Googled Jewish Thailand, and Jewish Thailand pops up, And sure enough, there's a synagogue on Soi 22, but it's on a subsoil. I'm not really sure what it is I want to say. I mean, I don't really even know what I'm looking for. I just know I'm looking for something, and I don't know or think it's going to be found here. I don't know, And I got on this Soi Sai Nam Tip song. This is the subsoy. And I look down the road, and I see who I now know to be Rabbi Goldberg. He's got a fedora, he's got a beard, he's got tzitz and a coat, and this, and I'm like, this is Jewish. And I had this thought. I thought, wow, this must be a very exciting community. Look, they're having some kind of a pageant. It's some kind of dress-up day from yesteryear, And I came into the shul, and I met Rabbi Cantor, and it was like, I felt like I stumbled onto the set of Fiddler on the Roof or something, At that visit, that very first visit, he says, you're a nice Jewish boy, and he asked me to put on tefillin. So I'm like, I don't even know what tefillin is. I mean, I kind of knew about it, maybe seen it in the movies or something. You know, now that I look back, I think, oh, I maybe seen like a wood cutting picture of Rashi with tefillin on from medieval times in like some kind of Western civilization book or something. But I really thought that this was a practice that was stopped like a couple hundred years ago. I didn't really know that it was something that was done. And so the tefillin come out, I put on the tefillin, he helped me put on the tefillin, and had me say the Shema, first time ever. And you know, I felt something. And at that meeting, and when that tefillin went on, I felt like I was at home for the first time of my life. In some way, I felt so welcome and so needed and so valued. 5 knots and 8 strings, 13. And the gematria for tzitzit is 600, so there's 613 mitzvahs. You don't leave your Judaism at the shul when you walk out the door and go out into the world. You go to the shul, you get recharged, you take your Judaism with you, and you take it into your daily life, and you take it into the physical world, you know, to the mud and the muck and the dirt and the farming, you know, and you sanctify it. See, this is rice. And in the olden days, we would have to harvest it by hand with a sickle, and then we'd have these bundles, and then we'd have to thrash it like that. So you finally got done with the harvest and you're really just beginning with the thrashing. This is the sickle, right, that cuts the rice. And there's a big drum, a thrasher, that thrashes off. See how it's, you know, it takes these grains of rice off. We're not, you know, we don't go out and buy string. We cut this bamboo and then we slice it down and we make it into these ties. And here you can see what the rice looks like coming right out of the combine. This year on the harvest, we had a casualty in the combine. It was broke. And I took it all apart and I found out what was broke, and it was just this little insignificant piece. And it was about the size of a pencil lead. And it was nothing special, but the combine would not work without it. And I had to have it. And I had to order it. And it cost me 20 baht. It's like less than $1. We couldn't do anything until we got that part. We got the part and the machine works fine now. What's that have to do with, you know, what does this have to do with Chabad of Thailand? And, you know, one of the remarkable things about the Rebbe Shliach here in Thailand, Rabbi Cantor, is that he can see within you, every single Jew, the value that you have that's inherent in you because you are a Jew. And he treats you with respect, and he values your presence no matter who you are, no matter how much you don't know and don't practice or don't observe Judaism. You know, whether you live here or just visiting here, you know, Chabad of Thailand is there for you and welcomes you. And somehow, all together, all these little pieces that seem insignificant by themselves, it makes a bigger whole than you could possibly be by adding up all the individual parts. So it's quite remarkable, it's quite inspirational. Well, I wake up every morning, just like every other Jew, I wake up with moida ani. I have them clear the mud water, it takes a while. 40 meters deep. Put it on a jug of water. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvah v'tzavanu al netilas yadayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam moitzi lahem min ha'aretz. When learning, it's like when you learn something, maybe the real essence of everything we learn is that when we learn something, we learn that there's a lot more to be learned. You know, the more I know that I don't know. You know. No no matter how far you go from the Jewish community, you take your Judaism with you. And as Jews, we study the Torah. And so we do a Skype every Wednesday night. Prepare yourselves for tomorrow. Hashem will do wonders in your midst. Joshua then spoke to the Kohanim, saying, carry the ark of the covenant and pass before the people. How come there's different sizes? And after a while, I started finding that through my study of keeping up with the Parsha and going to the Shirim, that not only was I able to comprehend more, but I was even able to maybe participate and contribute to some degree. It was after Sinai. And Moshe was, how many Jews are there anyhow, you know? And it's like, you know, and he doesn't want to go around pointing fingers, counting up this one and that one, because, you know, who can withstand the evil eye, so to speak? And so instead of counting each individual person, he had them, you know, he had them each contribute a half shekel. And so he's going to count up the half shekel. The interesting thing about this lesson is that if you want to count, you have to contribute. And of course, the contribution can be made in many different ways. It might be a kind deed, you know, a mitzvah. What did Moshe do with these half shekels of silver? He melted them down. They were used to make the foundation of the Mishkan. The silver sockets from which the walls of the Mishkan, the temple, the tabernacle, the mobile temple that was used when they were wandering around the desert to house the ark and the tablets, the Holy of Holies. And so this contribution, this half shekel contribution, is used to lay the foundation for the dwelling place for Hashem here on earth. You know, Chassidus teaches that our purpose, you know, the Jews' purpose, mankind's purpose on earth is to provide a dwelling place for God on earth. And our contribution to Judaism provides the foundation for God's dwelling place here on earth. And so this to me is what Chabad of Thailand is doing, because, you know, if you're missing my half shekel, you don't have enough to build the foundation, and you can't make the dwelling place for God on earth. You need every single Jew. And Chabad of Thailand, you know, invites, values, and helps every single Jew realize their own value and their own potential.